The sky was ink black, with only a pale moon filtering through the leaves, stirring silver ripples across the surface of Jamaica Pond. It was well past midnight, but the wail of an ambulance shattered the silence along a quiet suburban road outside Boston. Dr. Ethan Calloway stood in the hospital hallway, just off his shift, his hands still carrying the faint scent of anesthetics. He squinted at the emergency alert flashing on the monitor. "Patient, Jaden Morales, status epilepticus." His heart skipped a beat. Jaden? The boy he'd seen a few times in the clinic, the one who avoided his gaze, who said nothing in response to any question. The boy with the oversized black hoodie and bruised, sunken eyes that seemed to carry a sorrow far beyond his years. In a flash of dread, Ethan bolted into the emergency room. The room blazed with harsh white light. The machines beeped faster. Beep, beep, beep. Jaden lay curled up on the gurney, his body convulsing more violently than Ethan remembered. He rushed to his side, a flood of emotions surging through him, part doctor, part someone who had once tried so hard to reach the quiet heart behind that guarded shell. He remembered the first time he saw Jaden, silent after Ethan gently said, "When you're ready." "I'm still here." He remembered Jaden's eyes the day he asked, "Doctor, have you ever wanted to disappear?" Words hesitant, yet piercing, like a mirror held up to Ethan's own loneliness. Ethan gripped Jaden's hand, cold and trembling, as fragile as a thin leaf caught in a winter wind. The heart monitor blinked rapidly, screaming warning after warning. He tried to stay calm, but his own hands were shaking. Swallowing the dryness in his throat, he shouted, "I need IV diazepam now! Get the intubation kit ready!" In a matter of seconds, the emergency room snapped into motion. A flurry of injections, tubes down the throat, medication pumped in. Every eye, every hand, every breath was focused on Jaden. After about 15 intense minutes, Jaden's seizures began to ease. His limbs stopped jerking. The pale green monitor flattened into a more stable rhythm. His heartbeat slowed. Stepping out of the trauma room, Ethan made his way to the vending machine and bought himself a can of coffee. As he sipped, letting the bitter warmth settle in his chest, his mind drifted back to an autumn afternoon in Franklin Park. He remembered Jaden's surprised glance when he saw Ethan drinking a beer, that strange, silent moment when the doctor-patient dynamic melted away, and all that remained were two souls quietly trying to understand the weight they carried. He remembered the first time Jaden smiled at him, just faintly, after his initial seizure had passed and the fear had subsided. Now, in front of him stood a harsher version of that memory. Jaden, stripped of the hoodie that once served as armor, reduced to nothing but a fragile boy clinging to life. The steady pulse of the heart monitor thudded like stones falling, one by one, through time. When Ethan returned to Jaden's bedside, the boy's eyes fluttered open, his head swaying slightly. In the wash of harsh white light, Jaden looked straight at him. Ethan exhaled. His shoulders sank. He reached out and gripped the boy's hand firmly. He whispered, "Thank you for holding on. You're an incredible kid." Flashback. 1 month earlier, the first meeting between Dr. Ethan Calloway and Jaden. Jaden was already a familiar patient to one of Ethan's former colleagues, who had since transferred to another hospital. Now, it was Ethan's turn to take over the case. He remembered that day clearly. Jaden Morales stood at the clinic door, his oversized black hoodie drooping low over his eyes. He was so thin it looked like he might shatter if someone brushed past him. He didn't say a word, just waited, still and silent, like a shadow made flesh. But those dark-circled eyes of his screamed with defiance and fear. Behind his ear, a pale scar hinted at some past trauma, maybe from a violent seizure. The sight triggered a flicker of memory in Ethan's mind, the day he found his younger brother, Matthew, unconscious on the floor. Ethan offered a small smile. His voice wavered just slightly. "Jaden, it's really good to meet you. I know you've been through a lot." He didn't launch into questions, didn't open the file or ask about symptoms. Instead, he let the silence hang. Deep enough for Jaden to smell the sterilized paper on the desk, to catch the faint trace of anesthesia still clinging to Ethan's sleeve. The stillness between them was heavy, almost storm-like, charged and waiting to break. Jaden's lips twitched just barely, It was the kind of gesture most people would miss. But Ethan knew it was his way of saying yes. A silent nod, spoken in the language of guarded hearts. Ethan stepped gently toward the chair and lowered himself until he was eye level with Jaden. I know you just went through the worst seizure you've ever had. It must have been terrifying. Jaden squeezed his eyes shut and bit down on his lower lip, as if trying to contain a wave of emotion threatening to burst free. He pressed on the vein under his wrist, grounding himself. Ethan recognized that reaction instantly. He had seen it before. Matthew had once screamed like that, raw, angry, terrified, helpless. Do you remember what it felt like while the seizure was happening? The question wasn't polished or clinical. It landed softly, like a small nail pressing into the darkness of Jaden's mind. Jaden exhaled shakily. His shoulders trembled. He whispered, I just felt like my body wasn't mine anymore. It exploded inside me, like 100 muscles snapping all at once. Then everything just went dark. My senses gone. Ethan nodded slowly, slipping his fingers beneath the stethoscope around his neck. I get that. Did you feel absolute fear? Like you were losing your soul in the middle of it? Jaden's voice came out so quietly it was barely audible, half certain, half searching. I didn't want to die, but I didn't know what to do. I screamed, but no one could hear me. Tears pooled at the corners of his eyes, sliding down in silence. Ethan could feel the fracture deep inside the boy, as if something had splintered and shifted. He picked up a tissue and placed it gently into Jaden's hand. I'm here to listen, to understand. I'm not a magic cure, but I won't leave you. In that moment, the room seemed to hold its breath. Jaden's trembling fingers clutched the tissue tightly, as if afraid it might disappear. And Ethan? His mind drifted back to the time he sat beside Matthew's hospital bed. A nurse had handed him a sweat-soaked cloth. He had clung to it and cried like a child. Ethan slowly pulled out the file, careful not to break eye contact, keeping his gaze warm and steady. Can you tell me a little about your family? There's no rush. I just want to understand. Jaden bit his lip, his eyes beginning to gloss over. He said quietly, My dad. He doesn't believe I'm really sick. He takes it out on me. Locks me in the garage. Says I'm faking it. My mom's always busy. I've had to just get through it alone. I don't have anyone to lean on. Ethan exhaled, soft, almost shaky. He couldn't stop his mind from conjuring up the image of Jaden's mother, the mother he'd once known, working late nights at the laundromat, her hands calloused, her eyes still shadowed with worry. He asked gently, Do you have anyone to talk to? Friends? Relatives? Jaden shook his head, eyes filling with sorrow. Noah, my best friend. He was autistic. He was the only one I had, but he's gone now. That final word, gone, hung in the air like ice. Ethan felt his chest tighten. He sat down beside Jaden, set the file aside, and spoke softly. I'm really sorry about Noah. Would you like to tell me about him? I'm here, and I truly want to listen. Jaden lowered his head. His shoulders trembled, as if the weight of the entire world had settled on his thin frame. He clutched the edge of his hoodie, breathing in shallow, broken pulses. Noah, he wasn't just my best friend. He was the only one who understood every tear, every heartbeat that cracked inside me. He taught me how to smile through the storm. He made me believe I wasn't completely alone, even when my body kept betraying me. Jaden's voice grew shakier with each word, choking on the memory. As he spoke, he drifted into stories about afternoons spent sketching together, about the way they used to watch their favorite films over and over, laughing even when the world outside felt unbearable. Jaden said softly, Noah loved to draw. He used to say his dream was to have his own art exhibit someday. Compared to him, I don't even know what my dream is. To get better? For my dad to finally love me? None of those things feel real. Tears shimmered in his eyes. Ethan placed a gentle hand on Jaden's shoulder, his voice calm and warm. Jaden, not knowing your dream yet. There's nothing shameful about that. Would you ever consider sharing your story? I truly believe there are people out there who would want to hear it, and maybe Just maybe, through sharing, you'll discover your dream along the way. Jaden looked up, hesitation flickering in his eyes. Do you really think I could? I'm scared I'll fail again. Ethan nodded firmly. I do. I'm working with the developmental disability centers. We're building a small space for kids like you, a place to share, to learn, and most importantly, to never feel alone. I don't want you to come as a patient, Jaden. I want you there as the friend, as a storyteller. There was a pause. Jaden slowly pulled back the hood of his sweatshirt, revealing eyes that shimmered with something close to light. I'll try. I want to tell Noah's story, and I want to hear the stories of other kids too. Ethan smiled, wide and genuine, like he'd just been handed something precious. I'll be waiting for you there. Whenever you're ready, come. I want to hear everything, the sadness, the joy, all of it. Jaden looked at him, cautious and unsure, his voice barely above a whisper. Thank you, doctor. I'll think about it. One autumn afternoon, as red and yellow maple leaves began drifting lazily onto the stone path, Jaden walked slowly through Franklin Park. In his hand was an old canvas tote bag, and with practiced movements, he picked up discarded beer cans and plastic bottles along the way. Each can, each bottle was worth almost nothing, but to him, they were little tickets, just enough to buy sandwiches and bottled water for the homeless kids he knew near the train station. The autumn breeze brushed gently across his cheeks, carrying a crisp chill mixed with the scent of hot chocolate and baked goods from a lakeside cafe nearby. He wore his usual tight black hoodie. Familiar gestures, hunched over, eyes scanning for trash, his frail shoulders twitching at every sudden gust. Each time the bag grew heavier, Jaden thought of Noah, his best friend's quiet smile, the afternoons they used to spend by the school chair, reading stories. He wondered, if Noah were still here, what would he do? Probably help him pick up bottles, then sit together on the stone steps, splitting a dry sandwich down the middle like they used to. As Jaden bent down to grab one last can beneath an old oak tree, his eyes caught movement in the low grass nearby. There, on a weathered bench, sat a familiar figure, slouched and still. Dr. Ethan Calloway, his doctor, was sitting alone, holding a cold aluminum beer can slick with condensation. His head hung low, eyes shadowed with fatigue. He took slow, steady sips of his drink, as if each one could wash away some layer of exhaustion clinging to him. Jaden stopped in his tracks, chest tightening. The calm, distant doctor from the clinic suddenly felt startlingly human. He wasn't wearing a white coat. He wasn't ordering meds or checking EEG results. He was just a man, drinking alone, his eyes slightly blurred by stress. Jaden stepped closer, quiet, not wanting to disturb whatever private world Ethan was lost in. When the doctor finally looked up, his eyes met Jaden's with a flicker of surprise. Not suspicion, not judgment, but something gentler. A quiet curiosity, just like the first time he'd invited Jaden to the Developmental Disability Center, that same look, that same light. Hi, Jaden, Ethan said, his voice still soft but warm. Picking up bottles around here? Jaden nodded, wiping the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. Yeah. I just wanted to trade them for a few bucks. Buy some snacks for the street kids. Ethan leaned over, placing his beer can on the small wooden table beside the bench. I see. That's admirable. Jaden's cheeks flushed a little. He wasn't used to compliments, especially not from a doctor who usually just reminded him to take your meds regularly or stop by the center when you can. You seem sad too, Jaden said suddenly. Are you okay? There was a pause. A breeze rustled the trees, scattering a few dry leaves over Ethan's shoulder. Then, slowly, he replied, Some nights, I come out here just to sit and look at the moon. I drink a little, to forget things for a while, to quiet my mind. Jaden bent down and picked up an empty bottle near Ethan's bench. His voice dropped to a hush. I know what it feels like, to want to disappear. Ethan's eyes flicked up, startled, then softened. Jaden went on, his voice rough. That time, when you said, I'll be here when you're ready, you said it because you know what loneliness feels like too, don't you? Ethan didn't answer right away. his back tensed slightly as the wind picked up. Then he ran his fingers slowly along the edge of the wooden table, as if preparing to speak something buried deep. "You remember that question you asked me? Doctor, have you ever wanted to disappear?" He gave a faint smile. "You caught me off guard. Because yes, Jaden, I have." Jaden lowered his head, letting his hair fall and nearly cover his eyes. "I didn't say that to make anyone feel bad. I just wanted someone to understand." The soft rustle of falling leaves brushed against his ears. In the stillness, something felt warm. Ethan took a deep breath, steadying himself. He said gently, "Sitting here with you, just talking like this, it calms me. Do you want to share more? I'm listening." Jaden looked up. There was a shimmer of hope in his eyes. "Do you remember Noah?" Ethan gave a quiet nod, his voice low. "I do. You told me about how you used to draw together, tell each other stories." Jaden clutched the plastic bag in his hands a little tighter. His voice softened. "Noah taught me how to hold on to hope. Even when he couldn't talk anymore, I could feel he wanted me to keep living." Ethan rested a hand on the imaginary lens of a camera in his mind, as if recording this fragile moment. "You're living so bravely, Jaden. Honestly, you've taught me more than I've taught you." Jaden gave a faint, wistful smile and looked out over the lake. "This lake is always beautiful. You used to come here. I did too. But we always sat far apart, never close." Ethan gently took the empty can from Jaden's hand and smiled. "Then let's not be apart anymore. Let's sit side by side. Would that be okay?" Jaden slid his chair closer, setting the bag of bottles on the ground. "It's okay." They sat together, not in tense silence this time, but in a silence that comforted. They didn't need to speak much. The beer in Ethan's hand warmed slowly with his touch, while the autumn breeze brushed gently across their faces. In this simple setting, they found each other, two lonely souls, two hearts quietly longing to be understood and to understand. After a while, Ethan turned to him and asked softly, "Would you like to visit the Developmental Disability Center with me sometime?" Jaden looked up at him, eyes wide with surprise. I'm afraid I won't fit in." Ethan sighed, but his smile was kind. "No one judges you there. Just books, music, and kids like you, kids who need a place to breathe. I want you to come, not just as a patient, but as a friend." Jaden smiled softly. For the first time, he felt like he was being invited, not just for treatment, but to share something meaningful. "I'll come," he said. The autumn light faded slowly. The sunset painted the lake in hues of pink, leaves gently blanketing the path. Beneath the warm red sky, two people sat side by side. No distance, no judgment, just hearts quietly making a promise. To keep going. To heal together. Saturday afternoon, the last sunlight of fall glowed faintly across the tin roof of the Developmental Disability Center. Outside, dry leaves rustled underfoot. But the moment Jaden stepped through the door, it felt like entering another world. A place warm, unhurried, untouched by the cold fluorescent lights of hospitals. The activity room was wide and welcoming, its walls covered in cheerful children's drawings. Low tables and chairs filled the space, and bookshelves were organized by themes: animation, science, meaningful comics. A large bulletin board on one wall was pinned with colorful cards and postcards, messages from children, each one wishing to build a circle of friends and share hope. Ethan was already there, sitting in a cushioned chair, a book in his hands titled The Sound of Hope, a short story collection about children overcoming neurological disorders. He looked up, surprised but glad to see Jaden, and nodded. "Hey, Jaden, I've been waiting for you." Jaden gently set his cloth bag down, eyes shimmering with an unfamiliar peace. I'm here," he replied. Ethan smiled and held up the book. "I thought you might like this one. There's a story about a boy who donated a drawing to the hospital. It helped the doctors feel less tense during night shifts." Jaden slowly sat beside him, taking the book in his hands. He opened to the first page, his eyes pausing on the picture of a child painting a hospital wall. The lines were clumsy, but the feeling so full of love. Jaden whispered, "I want to draw something too, for Noah." Ethan looked at Jaden, his voice gentle. "I'll help you. There's a whole art corner here, with watercolors, thick paper. You can leave your mark, however you choose." When the final layer of paint dried, Jaden set the brush down and stepped back, his eyes fixed on the finished piece. 2 hands, one large, one small, intertwined. No signature, just a soft wash of golden yellow like the light of a fading sunset, and a sliver of space between the fingers, as if promising that the bond would always remain open. The room was quiet. Even the ticking clock in the lounge seemed to fall silent, only the steady rhythm of 2 people breathing side by side. Jaden felt something inside him still and settle. "I didn't think I could paint something like this," he whispered, voice trembling. "But as I painted, it felt like each stroke was stitching pieces of me back together." Ethan smiled, his eyes full of warmth and tenderness. "I saw that in your work, and I believe anyone who looks at it will see the same message. That no matter how broken life makes us feel, there's always a hand, a heart, willing to reach out and pull us back." The last light of day slipped through the window, casting soft golden hues across the wall. 2 shadows stretched across the mural, like a sketch drawn by the evening sun, simple but brimming with hope. Jaden looked up, eyes shimmering. "I think I've saved a little piece of my faith." Ethan rested a hand on his fragile shoulder, voice low and steady. "And you saved me too, with your faith, with your dream. In the journey of healing, sometimes we think we're giving something away, but we're the ones being saved." They stood in silence, gazing at the painting, letting the stillness rise and fall inside them like waves. Outside the window, the night began to settle slowly, but their hearts glowed brighter than ever. And there, in a quiet corner of the Developmental Disability Center, a seed of hope had taken root, an invisible thread now tying 2 souls together, ensuring that from this day forward, neither of them would walk alone